Welcome to this tutorial on how to compose music on piano. My name is Tobey from Jazz Mental. Thanks once again for joining me. We are in the final stages of composing a piece of music that we started a couple of videos ago. I'm actually going to post links to those videos below, and at the end of this video you might want to check that out. But I think it's important to look at the final stages because what I've done is I've taken all of the writing that I did during those videos and committed it to a sheet of music, which you'll see in front of you. I created it with Finale, and now I'm going to play it through one time and then make a few changes to it and also discuss the form and how this music came into being. So if you're looking to create your own music, this is part of that process. Now, again, like I say, there's a couple other videos that preceded this one, which goes through the initial stages of how the melody was done, how the chords were put together. And right now we're just kind of figuring out what is the best sound for this, maybe some left-hand voicings, right-hand voicings, putting in some notes that weren't there before. So let me play it through once, and then we'll take a look at it a little more in detail. Okay, so that's the piece of music. I called it Bayview Bossa. I live in Bayview Village, and it is a bossa nova feel. And while the left hand doesn't necessarily do that bossa, which is, it does that sometimes, but then I liked this pattern where we're doing. That's kind of a nice little bass line. So a couple of things that I did differently, and I just need to map out the tune for it. So what we have here is A. So we have two A sections with the repeat. And then this is the bridge. We'll call this B section. And then we repeat the A section when it comes back to here. So this is the bridge ends and it comes back to C section here. And then of course I did not do the DS and I continued into the coda here and finished it with just that left-hand bass. Kind of call that an ostinato pattern. If you're not familiar with what ostinato is, it's things like this. Just sort of repeating patterns that appear over several bars. And if you look at the A section, I wanted to create a melody that was memorable. So it's a simple melody, da 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 da, and then I repeated it. So also a little bit of ostinato. And that's important when you're putting melodies together, that they are somewhat memorable and they do adhere to some sort of specific pattern over and over again, and that's how the ear catches on. Then when I got to the bridge, I did one change that I figured out before I started today, where we're coming out of the A section in the second time ending, and now we're hitting B. So originally it was this. So I felt at a certain point it just kept going up and it was too much. So for example, it just didn't sound right in terms of the way that melody strikes me. So I just changed it to, and then I started coming down. That's a neat voicing on the B flat 7 chord. Let me write that out for you because I think that's an important voicing that you can use for your playing and your composition. So it's basically a B major 7th chord over B flat 7. So let's say we're doing B flat here, B flat here. So just octaves in the bass and then hit that minor second, which is here. So it's B natural and then E flat, G flat, and B flat on top. So you've got 3 B flats in the chord and then a B major. So it's kind of a neat sounding chord. So we're 3 bars before C. And then what I did there was instead of playing the C7 flat 9, I substituted an A flat minor chord. So again, you can choose either one. In the tune, it's C7 flat 9. But I just kind of felt it sounded neat. Right. Now, just from an overall compositional perspective, I think it needs to be repeated that when you're creating melodies, you not only have to think about what is pleasing to the ear, but you also have to think about that concept of repetition and consistency. So let me give you an opposite example of some types of compositions that I've heard people or other people do that aren't necessarily as pleasing. So let's start out with the way the tune is now. So you've got that ostinato pattern completing itself. Again, and then again. And so what people tend to do is they think about melodies a little bit differently. They're doing things that are non-consistent. So let me give you an example of what would be non-consistent. So there's nothing that the ear can grab onto that is consistent in that. Now that might have been an over-exaggeration, but at the same time, I've heard people do that. I've heard people create melodies. I hang out on MuseScore a lot and I hear people write melodies and I'm like, it needs to be so much simpler than that. And then when you get to the soloing section, you can go crazy. So of course, if I'm soloing, I can do anything. And that's really the whole point of soloing, is to create all kinds of more complex melodies and phrasings. But in the song itself, it's important, again, to have that consistency over and over again of melody repeating itself, even if it's different notes, but the patterns and the rhythms are the same. And that's what's important. And then that whole concept of going up, coming down, and also tension and resolve. So that's what we had, tension and resolve, when we had Let's go 3 bars before C, where it's going tension, resolve. Okay, that's really what I wanted to focus on in this video. I hope you got something out of that. If you have any questions about what I'm talking about, you can certainly post them below. And if you want me to drill down on any specific section, I can do that. Also, I'm going to post right now a link to the first video in this playlist in which I started the composition. It's really, this entire piece came about right in front of you in these videos. I didn't really work on it outside of the video, except for putting or dedicating the writing to finale and making this sheet of music. So thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it, and we'll see you in another video.